The sea always sounded like home, until tonight. From the cliffs, its voice rose gentle and endless, but underneath I heard a warning, a pulse that didn't match the tide. Lanterns floated across the courtyard, painting everything in gold. My pack moved like one living thing, wolves in human skin, laughing, dancing, pretending the world was safe. Father stood on the stone platform, tall and proud, the silver mark of Alpha shining across his throat. His voice carried over the music. Tonight, the Blackthorn Pack unites with the Riverbane Alliance. Tonight, peace is written beneath the moon. Everyone cheered. I smiled because I was supposed to, because daughters of alphas don't frown during blessings. But my wolf stirred inside me, restless and uneasy, packing just beneath my ribs. Something felt wrong. The scent of lilacs hung heavy in the air. Too sweet, too perfect. I caught the edge of metal beneath it, the faint taste of blood where none should be. I pushed a smile to my lips and slipped away from the dance, skirts brushing dew-wet grass. The laughter behind me dimmed until all I heard was wind, the whisper of pines, and the sea breathing below. Freedom. For a heartbeat, I could breathe again. I pressed my hand against the rough bark of a tree and whispered to the night, just one moment where I'm not the obedient daughter. Luna. My father's voice cut through the quiet. I turned, startled. He was walking toward me, robe lined with silver thread, carrying the golden goblet of ceremony wine. He smiled, the same tired smile he wore whenever duty outweighed choice. "Share a drink with me before midnight," he said, "for luck." I reached for the cup, but he lifted it first, taking a sip. The moment the wine touched his lips, his smile faltered. His eyes widened. "Father." He staggered. The goblet fell, rolling against the stone. My hands shot out, catching him before he hit the ground. "Father, look at me." He didn't answer. His breath hitched once, then stopped. The air split with a howl, not human, not friendly. Another followed. Then the fire behind us exploded. I spun. Shadows poured through the courtyard, wolves in black masks, blades flashing under the moon. The scent of smoke swallowed everything. Screams rose and broke. The music died. My body moved before my mind did. Run. I bolted into the trees, feet bare, dress snagging on branches. The ground shook with pursuit. Behind me fire, ahead darkness. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Roots tore my skin, air scorched my lungs. I reached the cliff trail, the ocean roaring below. I thought I was free until a figure stepped from the shadows. A cloak, a mask, a gloved hand. He caught my wrist. Pain lanced through me, hot, wild, alive. I gasped, light bursting across my skin as something carved itself into me, a symbol made of fire. I tried to pull away, but the mark pulsed, gold and red, burning and beautiful. He leaned close, voice a whisper made of smoke. "Run to Voss." Then he released me. I ran. Down the narrow cliff path, through smoke that burned my eyes, through salt and wind and fear. The sea crashed below, cold spray cutting my face. Every breath tasted like blood and salt. I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. My wolf pushed me forward until the forest gave way to the broken edge of the human world. Stone, streetlights, silence. I stumbled into the city, the sounds too loud, the lights too bright. My feet bled against pavement. I pulled myself into an alley that smelled of rain and gasoline. The mark on my wrist still glowed faintly beneath the grime, a soft ember that wouldn't die. I pressed my palm over it, whispering, "What are you?" The only answer was the growl behind me. I turned. Two shadows at the alley mouth tall, red-eyed, feral, rogues. Their scent hit me iron decay hunger. They moved fast. I darted sideways, slamming against a dumpster, but the pain in my ankle slowed me. Their claws scraped the walls. Then a roar of an engine. Headlights flooded the alley. A sleek black car tore between us, tires screaming. The rogues leapt aside. The door swung open. He stepped out. Tall, sharp-edged, blonde hair catching the city's neon glow, A wolf in a tailored suit, the scent of power curling around him. His gaze landed on me, then dropped to my wrist. The mark flared like it recognized him. He smiled, slow and certain. "Found you." "Stay back," I warned, my voice trembling. He didn't. He walked closer, eyes bright with something that wasn't human. "You're bleeding," he said softly, almost kindly. "And that mark, it doesn't belong in a place like this." My heart raced. "Who are you?" "Someone who's going to keep you alive." He reached into his coat, too fast to see, and I felt the sting on my neck. A needle, cold spreading through my veins. The world tilted. The alley spun. His voice was the last thing I heard. "You're coming with me, Luna Blackthorn." Darkness folded around me, warm, dizzy, endless. "Run to Voss," the masked man had whispered, and I did, straight into hell. I woke up in glass. Not a cage, not exactly. But everything around me shimmered with clean edges and silence. Glass walls, glass ceiling, glass door. The skyline blinked beyond the transparent walls, all towering buildings and blinking lights that didn't belong in my world. I sat up too fast, dizzy, blinking away the blur. My hands sank into velvet sheets. My ankle throbbed. My shoulder was bandaged, my skin washed. My mark still glowed faintly on my wrist, like the memory of fire. Where the hell was I? The door slid open with a whisper. He walked in like he owned the sky. Dark suit, collar open. No tie, hair slicked back carelessly, eyes like silver frost, cutting through the room as if I were just another glass thing he'd bought and placed exactly where he wanted. I knew him before he said a word. Dante Voss. The name had drifted in stories whispered by rogues. Syndicate king, arms dealer, alpha of shadows, a wolf with too much power and no soul left to lose. And now, the man staring at me like I was a puzzle he didn't ask for. He stepped closer. I shifted backward on the bed. "Relax," he said, voice smooth and deep. "You're safe." "Safe," I repeated. "Where am I?" "My penthouse." I looked around again. "Looks more like a prison." His lips twitched at that. "A very expensive one." He stopped beside the bed and held out his hand. I didn't take it. His gaze flicked down to the mark on my wrist, and for the first time, something in his expression shifted. Not recognition. Dread. "No," he muttered under his breath. "Not her." "What does that mean?" I asked sharply. "What's wrong with me?" He didn't answer, just straightened, hands in his pockets, that careful calm sliding back over him like armor. "You're under my protection now," he said, "which means you don't leave this floor, you don't talk to anyone unless I say, and you stay out of my way." I stood. "You can't just." He took one step, and I felt it. Alpha presence. It hit like a wall of heat, not rage, not even anger, just power, the kind that makes your bones remember your prey. Still, I didn't back down. "I don't care what this mark means," I hissed. "I don't belong to you." He didn't blink. "Maybe not, but it belongs to me." Then he turned and left, the glass door sliding shut behind him. I stopped trying to figure out how many hours passed. There were no clocks here, no sunrise, just sky-colored glass that never turned black. The penthouse was too clean, too perfect, the kind of place that had no memories, just money. I tested every exit. The main elevator was fingerprint locked, the stairwell guarded, and Marco, his blonde enforcer with the sharp smile, popped up everywhere I turned. "You're persistent," he said, watching me try to wedge a fork into the panel beside the elevator. "I'm bored." He grinned. "I can fix that." He was charming in a way that made me want to slap him or laugh. Maybe both. He wore suits like they were made for him, had this casual slouch that said he feared nothing, and he liked leaning too close when he talked. But even his easy smirks couldn't distract me from the fact that I was trapped. Still, I watched, I listened. The penthouse wasn't just home, it was headquarters. I overheard pieces of phone calls, mentions of shipment delays, rogue rotation, midnight auctions. I found a locked door labeled with a silver crest I didn't recognize. Saw briefcases carried in and out, each marked with wolf sigils and blood-red wax. Weapons, drugs, rogue trading. Dante Voss didn't just rule the city. He ran the parts even wolves didn't want to talk about. And still, none of it made sense. Until the closet. I wasn't looking for anything when I opened it, just bored, restless. His scent hit me first. Sharp cedar, cold smoke, something darker. His suits were lined in blacks and blues. His boots gleamed. His weapons rack was lined with silver steel and obsidian handles. And at the very back, a shirt. Folded, blood-stained. The cloth was torn across the shoulder. The fabric, unmistakable, stitched with the crest of blackthorn. My pack. My father's symbol. The blood drained from my face as I held it in shaking hands. I stormed out of the room and found him on the terrace, staring down at the glittering city like he was bored of owning it. I threw the shirt at him. His eyes dropped to it, and for the first time his calm cracked. "Where did you get this?" I demanded. "Why do you have my father's shirt? Why is it covered in blood?" He didn't move. I stepped closer. "Did you kill him? Did you order it?" He turned slowly, meeting my eyes with something unreadable. "If I wanted you dead," he said quietly, "you wouldn't be standing here." My chest rose, sharp and shallow. "That's not an answer." He stepped forward once, and this time I didn't retreat. "I don't owe you one," he said. "Not yet." And then, without another word, he walked past me, leaving the shirt at my feet. The penthouse never slept. Even when the world below went quiet, this place breathed a creature made of glass and metal, watching me from every reflection. Guards outside every door. Cameras hidden behind marble and steel. I'd memorized every inch by now, every path that ended in a locked exit. Tonight I tried again. I slipped from my room barefoot, careful not to make the floorboards whisper. The hall smelled faintly of cedar and gun oil, Dante's scent. My wolf twitched inside me, warning or craving, I couldn't tell which. The elevator was locked, as always. But at the far end of the corridor, I'd noticed a door with faint air seeping through the gap beneath it, not mechanical air. Wind. I pressed the panel. It slid open. Moonlight poured in. The rooftop garden wasn't what I expected. It wasn't flowers and sweetness. It was wild, untamed vines twisting through the railing, dark roses blooming between slabs of stone. The air smelled of rain and danger. A wolf could breathe here. I took one step forward, then another, until I stood beneath the full sky again for the first time since my pack burned. I closed my eyes. For one heartbeat, it almost felt like freedom. Then the wind shifted. A faint scrape metal against stone. I turned just as a figure moved from behind the vines. Tall, hooded, dressed like a guard but wrong, his scent was syndicate. It was cold, empty, feral. The moon caught the glint of a blade in his hand. I jumped back. He lunged. Steel flashed for my throat. I ducked, felt the blade slice air instead of skin. My shoulder hit the wall. My wolf surged, half shifting in panic, claws just beneath the surface. "Who sent you?" I gasped, dodging again. He didn't answer. His mask caught the moonlight, blank, expressionless. The blade cut through my sleeve, nicking skin. Warm blood slid down my arm. He smiled beneath the mask, slow and deliberate. Then a shadow dropped behind him. The assassin froze for half a heartbeat, long enough for Dante to appear like a storm breaking through the dark. He moved so fast I barely saw it, one hand snapping the man's wrist, the other crushing his throat. The blade clattered to the stone, spinning into the roses. The fight was over before my breath even caught up. Dante shoved the body aside, eyes silvered and wild, chest rising hard. He looked less like a man and more like something ancient, wolf barely restrained beneath skin. He turned toward me. "You're bleeding," he said, voice rougher than usual. "I'm fine," I whispered, though my pulse was. He stepped closer, closing the distance until I could see the cut of his jaw, the faint scar beneath his collarbone. His hand came up, hesitating just for a moment, then brushed my wrist. The mark blazed. Heat flared up my arm like fire made of light. I gasped. His pupils dilated. His thumb pressed over the mark instinctively, trying to quiet it, but that only made it worse. The world narrowed to his breath on my cheek, the electric pull between us, the way his eyes dropped to my lips like he was fighting something even he couldn't command. We stood there, still and burning. The air thickened. Then he blinked hard, stepped back as if struck. The glow dimmed. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. "Get inside." I stared at him, trembling. "You felt that." He paused, didn't look at me. "You're wrong." I didn't sleep after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way he'd looked at me, not like a prisoner, not like a threat. Something else, something dangerous. By morning, I was packing. The penthouse felt smaller, the walls too close, the air too still. My wolf clawed at the inside of my skin, restless and alive. Marco found me in the training room, tossing knives at a wall that didn't deserve it. He grinned like always. "You planning to escape, or just redecorate?" "Maybe both." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "If you're going to stay locked up, might as well learn how to fight properly. Dante won't admit it, but he worries you'll try something stupid." "Worries," I repeated, catching the knife mid-air. "That's rich." We trained until sweat slicked my neck, until my hands stung from the blades. And every time Marco's gaze flicked past me toward the glass balcony, I knew who he was really watching. Dante stood there, silent, observing. He didn't interrupt, just watched. Like a wolf studying prey he didn't intend to eat, not yet. When I caught his reflection in the glass, I pretended not to see him. But his eyes found mine anyway. The mark pulsed once, faint and hot. That night, I couldn't stand it anymore. I found him in his office, alone, leaning over papers scattered like chaos. The skyline glowed behind him, cold and infinite. "You knew someone was coming for me," I said. He didn't look up. "I know everything that happens in my city." "Then why wait until he almost killed me?" He raised his head, "Because I needed to see who sent him." "And?" "Still breathing," he said flatly. "For now." My anger cracked. "You think this is a game?" He stood slow and calm. "No, Luna, I think this is survival." Something in his tone made my chest tighten. The calm before a storm that always came when we were too close. "You lock me up, spy on me, and call it protection," I snapped. He took one step closer. "If I wanted to cage you, you wouldn't have a garden." I slapped him before I could stop myself. The sound cut the air clean. For a breath, nothing moved. Then his hand caught my wrist, not rough, just firm enough to stop me. The mark flared red, pulsing between our skin. We both froze. His eyes shifted, glowing silver. Mine answered in kind, my wolf rising to meet his. The air trembled around us. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't planned. It was all instinct, sharp and desperate, tasting of power and need and something neither of us wanted to name. I pushed back once, then didn't. His hand slid to the back of my neck, mine to his chest. The mark burned brighter, heat flooding every part of me that had forgotten how to feel alive. When he finally broke the kiss, he stayed close enough for his breath to brush my lips. "You don't want this," he said, voice hoarse. "You want revenge." He stepped back, eyes hard again. "So do I." The door closed behind him, and I stood there, shaking, the mark still glowing like a heartbeat that wasn't ready to fade. The last thing I expected was a red dress. Not blood red, deeper, like garnet in firelight, thick and smooth as sin. It was laid out on my bed, along with stilettos, a diamond choker shaped like a wolf's head, and a handwritten note that read, "Wear it. No questions." I stared at the dress for a long time, then I burned the note. But I wore the dress. I didn't do it because he said so. I did it because I knew this game was bigger than me now, and sometimes the only power you have left is showing up on your own terms. When I walked out of the room, Marco gave a low whistle. "Well, damn." I rolled my eyes. "Don't start." He smirked. You clean up like a queen, princess." Before I could reply, the elevator opened, and the world changed. Dante stood there, black on black suit, wolf-shaped cufflinks. His eyes took me in, slow and unreadable, and for once he didn't say a word. He stepped forward and reached behind my neck. My pulse spiked. Click. The diamond wolf choker settled against my throat with a cold kiss. His fingers brushed my skin, deliberate, or maybe not, but the mark on my wrist flared softly, responding to his nearness like it had a mind of its own. "You're not just attending," he said quietly. "You're playing my mate." I froze. "You think people will believe that?" I asked, voice sharper than I meant. "They'll believe whatever I make them believe," he replied, holding out his arm. "Ready." I didn't take it, but I walked beside him. The syndicate gala was held in an underground ballroom that dripped with danger and gold. Wolves and power brokers lined the marble walls. Men in silk suits with knives at their waists. Women in velvet gowns who smiled like they'd tasted blood and liked it. This wasn't a celebration. It was a marketplace. A quiet war disguised in champagne. Dante moved through it like a shadow wearing skin. Every gaze followed him, and every path cleared before him. But tonight, they also looked at me. Whispers followed in our wake. "That's her. The mark. From Blackthorn." I kept my chin high. My fingers grazed the mark at my wrist like it might remind me who I was. Dante leaned down just enough for his breath to graze my temple. "They're watching." "Then let them," I murmured. He smiled without warmth. We wove through the crowd until he was pulled aside by a silver-haired alpha who looked like he belonged on a battlefield, not in a ballroom. I stayed back, eyes scanning, body tense. Someone bumped my shoulder. I turned, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. A woman in a navy gown, her eyes sharp, familiar. She leaned in, just enough to whisper, "You're the key to ending him." Then she was gone. I spun, trying to follow her through the crowd, but the sea of bodies swallowed her instantly. I reached for Dante, then stopped. No. Not him, not yet. Instead, I slipped deeper into the gala. Past the gambling tables and velvet drapes. Past wolves with branded necks and guards who didn't blink. Something in my chest pulled me forward like instinct until I saw him. A man in a black half-mask, standing near the edge of the room, watching me. He turned. A flash of silver glinted in his hand, a dagger. The hilt bore the Blackthorn crest. My heart dropped. I pushed through the crowd, faster, but he disappeared down a corridor. I followed. The hall was dim, silent, empty. I reached the end, and he was gone. Vanished like smoke. Footsteps pounded behind me. I turned fast, ready to fight, but it was Marco, breathless, holding up both hands. "You're not supposed to be down here," he said. "There's a man." "I know, he's not the first masked freak to sneak into a syndicate event." His voice turned low. "There's been whispers, someone inside's leaking information." I narrowed my eyes. "Someone in your circle?" Maybe higher." "Does Dante know?" Marco hesitated. "He's starting to trust you." That wasn't what I asked, but it answered enough. Back in the ballroom, Dante's jaw was tight. His eyes found mine the moment I stepped in, like they never really left. He said nothing, but the way his gaze dropped to my hand told me he saw the way it trembled. I looked away first. We left not long after. In the car, silence stretched between us like a string pulled too tight. I glanced at him. "You always bring women to pretend to be your mate." His answer came slower than I expected. "No. And yet, you put that necklace on me like you've done it 100 times." He didn't smile, because it needed to look real. I let the words hang. He didn't touch me, but he didn't look away either. My fingers grazed the choker. My skin still burned where he'd fastened it. "I think someone from my past was there," I said, voice low. He looked at me fully then. "You sure?" I nodded. "She said I'm the key to ending you." His jaw clenched. "Then let's find out who sent her," he said, and for the first time it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a promise. The ride back from the gala was quieter than it should have been. City lights smeared across the car windows, and Dante sat beside me like a shadow in silk, silent, unreadable, his profile sharp against the passing glow. I still felt the ghost of his fingers at my throat from earlier. The way he'd fastened the diamond wolf like it meant something. It shouldn't have mattered. But it did. "Back there," I said, breaking the silence. "You didn't correct her." He didn't look at me. Didn't need to. "They think I belong to you." "They need to think that." My jaw clenched. "And what do you think?" He finally looked at me, not cold, not angry. Just quiet. "I think the moment they stop believing it, someone puts a blade in your back." The car slowed. The elevator doors were already open when we reached the penthouse. Dante stepped out first. I followed, not because I had to, because I wanted to know more. More than just rumors. More than just power and mystery and marks that burned when he looked at me like that. He didn't speak again until we passed the glass hallway overlooking the city. "You need to train." I blinked. "Excuse me." "You're a target now," he said, still walking. "You don't get to be soft anymore." "You think I'm soft?" He stopped and looked over his shoulder. "No, I think you're tired of pretending you're not dangerous." The door to the training room slid open. Marco stood waiting, twirling 2 wooden blades. And here I thought I was the charming one in this duo. Dante handed me a towel. "She's yours for now. Keep her breathing." Then he left. No explanation, no glance back. I turned to Marco, who held out a blade with a wink. "Ready to sweat, princess." The room smelled like leather and steel. Lights low, mirrors everywhere. My bare feet slid against the mat as Marco circled me. He struck first. I blocked barely. "You move like someone who's never been allowed to throw a punch," he teased. "Let's change that." Strike, block, counter again. The rhythm pulled me out of my thoughts, out of the mark's heat, out of the memory of the gala. Marco was fast, but he didn't try to hurt me. He taught between strikes, corrected my form, cracked a joke whenever I got frustrated. I was halfway through a spin kick when he said, "Your mom would have liked this." I froze. "What?" He lowered his blade. "Your mother, I knew her, a long time ago." I stepped back, heart thudding. "She used to hum when she walked through the forest, always barefoot, always smiling like she knew secrets no one else did." He tilted his head. "You have her eyes and her fire." A memory surged, a face I hadn't seen in years, a laugh on the wind. "I remember," I whispered. You held my hand once." Marco's smile dimmed. "You were 5. I wasn't supposed to be there, but she let me say goodbye." "You said I was meant for more." He nodded, no smirk this time. "And you are." The weight of that truth wrapped around me like armor I didn't ask for. Before I could say more, the door slammed open. A guard stormed in. "Emergency, council chamber, now." We arrived seconds before chaos did. The council room was filled. Alphas, syndicate heads, smugglers in suits. I stood just behind Dante, Marco beside me. Voices clashed over territories and missing cargo. It sounded like politics. Until someone screamed. The doors burst open. A man lunged forward, disguised in courier black, blade in hand. I didn't think, I moved. The knife caught my arm as I shoved past Dante. Pain flared white. I staggered. And then, Dante changed. One breath he was beside me. The next he was fury incarnate. His growl ripped through the room. Low, primal enough to silence every voice, stop every breath. He caught the attacker mid-lunge, slammed him against the marble pillar. The rogue gasped, blade clattering to the floor. Dante's eyes glowed silver. Not just his irises, his entire gaze burned like moonfare. And when he spoke, it wasn't a question. "Who sent you?" No answer. Dante pressed his hand against the man's throat, lifted him an inch off the ground. "Talk." The attacker only choked. Dante's free hand closed around the rogue's wrist and broke it. Clean, sharp, final. The man screamed. Marco flinched beside me. Still, Dante didn't stop. It wasn't anger, it was instinct. Protection turned savage. He let the body drop, turned slowly, scenting the air like a wolf still halfway between forms. His eyes locked on me. I barely noticed the blood on my sleeve until he stepped forward and gripped my wrist. Let me see. I'm fine, I said, even though my knees wobbled. You're bleeding. It's nothing. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Not to me. He pressed a cloth against the wound, tight and careful. His hand lingered just a second longer than necessary. The air between us thickened. The others in the room stayed silent. They'd seen power. But I'd seen something else. His fear. Not for himself, for me. You shouldn't have stepped in front of him, he murmured. I didn't think. You never do when it comes to danger, do you? I tilted my chin. And you? He leaned closer, his voice just for me. If you die, I lose everything. My breath caught. He said it like a confession, like a curse, like a man who wasn't supposed to feel that way, but did. He didn't wait for a response. He just let go of my wrist and walked out of the room, dragging half my heartbeat with him. I didn't move until the echo of Dante's footsteps disappeared down the corridor. The chamber doors shut behind him, leaving the scent of smoke and blood hanging in the air. Everyone else still stared at the broken body on the floor, too afraid to speak, too afraid to breathe. I couldn't stay there. The cut on my arm still stung, but the sting grounded me. I pressed the cloth he'd left behind against it, feeling the faint warmth of his touch. If you die, I lose everything. The words wouldn't stop repeating, over and over, as if they belonged to someone else's heartbeat that had somehow found its way into mine. I turned and slipped out through the side hall before anyone could stop me. The glass corridors of the penthouse glowed dimly under silver light. Every sound, the click of my heels, the faint hum of electricity, felt too loud. I walked past the council rooms, past the guarded lifts, until I reached the upper level I wasn't supposed to enter. Dante's floor. The guards weren't there. Maybe they followed him downstairs, maybe he'd dismissed them. Either way, the chance was mine. The door to his chamber wasn't locked. It hissed open like it expected me. The room looked nothing like the rest of the penthouse. It wasn't polished or sterile. It was alive with secrets. Books lined the walls, old, leather-bound volumes marked in symbols I didn't recognize. Scrolls were rolled and sealed with wax that looked centuries old. Maps lay spread across a long table, covered in notes and circles drawn in red ink. The scent of parchment and rain filled the air. My breath caught. On the largest map, I saw the word Blackthorn scrawled across a coastal region. A line of red ink connected it to another name written in bold, black strokes. Voss Syndicate. My heart twisted. Every part of me wanted to run again, but curiosity was stronger. I touched the map with trembling fingers, following the red thread between my father's crest and Dante. Pinned beneath the corner of the map was a single sheet of paper, old, yellowed, edges burned. Handwritten across it was a single phrase. She who bears the twin mark shall awaken the moonbound line. When blood meets blood, power shall rise. I read it again and again. Moonbound line. The words tasted wrong and right at the same time. My mark pulsed beneath the sleeve of my shirt, as if answering something in the ink. What are you doing here? The voice froze me where I stood. I turned slowly. Dante stood in the doorway, half in shadow, the silver in his eyes catching the light like blades. He wasn't angry, at least not yet, just quiet, watchful. I held up the paper. You could start by explaining this. He stepped closer, the door sealing behind him with a soft hiss. You went through my things. You hid things about my family. My voice cracked. You had maps of my home, my pack, my father, you knew. I knew enough, he interrupted. Enough to keep lying. He exhaled through his nose, steady, controlled. That prophecy is older than both our bloodlines. I found it years ago. And the moonbound line, I asked. What is it? He looked past me, toward the map, his jaw tightening. The moonbound were the first wolves blessed by the goddess, blood that carried magic itself. It died out generations ago. He hesitated. Or so we thought. I felt the mark on my wrist tingle, as if mocking us both. Who is we? I pressed. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw something raw behind the calm. Guilt, maybe, fear. Sila's Crane, he said quietly. The name cut through me like glass. I know that name, I whispered. My father, he used to meet him when I was a child. Dante nodded. He's behind the rogue attacks. I shook my head before I even realized I was doing it. That's impossible. Sila's was part of our alliance. He was more than that. His voice hardened. He was promised your hand before you turned 16. The world tilted. No, I breathed. My father would never. Your father made deals to keep his pack safe, Dante said, his tone softening. But Sila's wanted more than an alliance. He wanted your bloodline. He believed that if he claimed you before you came of age, he could steal the moonbound mark for himself. The prophecy paper crumpled in my hand. So you knew, I said. You knew he was coming for me. I suspected, he answered. I didn't know he'd move this fast. And the massacre, my voice rose. Did you suspect that too? He didn't answer. I stepped toward him, anger shaking through me. My family died because of him, because of you, because of this mark that none of us asked for. Dante's hand shot out, not to grab, but to steady. His fingers brushed my arm lightly. The contact silenced me. Luna, my name came out like a vow. If I could undo what happened to your family, I would. But Sila's isn't done. He's building an army of bonehounds, wolves stripped of their souls. He wants your power because he can't make his own. My throat tightened. And what do you want? His hand fell away, but his gaze didn't. I want him stopped. There was a stillness between us then, fragile and electric. The tension from earlier still hummed beneath our skin, the same invisible thread that pulled every time we breathed too close. You expect me to trust you, I said. No, his voice was low, rough. I expect you to survive. The words hit harder than they should have. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his collar, the one I'd noticed before. His eyes softened, only for a heartbeat. Sila's thinks you're a prize, he said. He doesn't understand that you're a storm. My chest rose, unsteady. And what do you understand, Dante? He almost smiled, almost. That storms can destroy everything, or save it. He turned away before I could answer, picking up the prophecy paper and sliding it back into the folder. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice quiet again. But since you are, stay close to Marco. Don't go anywhere alone. I can take care of myself. I know, he said, meeting my eyes one last time. That's what worries me. He left, the door closing softly behind him. I stood there, surrounded by the smell of ink, old paper, and something that felt dangerously like destiny. My mark pulsed again, bright, alive, whispering through my skin. When blood meets blood, power shall rise. I pressed my hand over it, trying to still the beat. But it wasn't my heartbeat anymore. It was his. I stood alone in the prophecy chamber long after Dante had gone, surrounded by ancient papers and truths I hadn't been ready to learn. You're a storm, he'd said. No one had ever called me that before. Not daughter, not mate, not pawn. Storm. I closed the folder slowly, hands still trembling from what I'd read. The prophecy, the maps, the mention of Sila's, the way Dante had looked at me, like I was both danger and salvation. Then the power flickered. Only for a second. Just enough for the lights to stutter overhead, for the shadows to twist unnaturally. I stepped back toward the door. My wolf shifted beneath my skin, alert. Something was off. Off in that way only we could feel. The air tasted like dust and smoke. Then Marco's voice exploded through the comm system. Voss, code black, they've breached the perimeter. East wing compromised. Another voice crackling. They're in the building. I barely had time to breathe before the glass door slid open. Dante stood there, coat half-buttoned, no guards, no hesitation. Move. I ran with him, no questions, down the hall through a private corridor that twisted behind the main level. They knew our layout, Dante growled. They didn't come for the syndicate, they came for you. I didn't ask how he knew. I already did. The mark on my wrist pulsed hot, as if in warning. We entered a freight lift. No numbers, no buttons, just a fingerprint scanner and a metal hatch that sealed behind us. The lights went red. We dropped. Then silence. When the doors opened again, the world had changed. A safe house. Stone walls, a fireplace flickering low in the corner, a single long window covered in blackout blinds. No windows, no cameras, just one door in, one door out. And one bed. I turned to him, breath still sharp. How did they get past your guards? Because someone inside let them, Dante said, pulling off his coat and throwing it over the arm of a chair. You think it was one of your own? He didn't answer. Instead, he crossed to the wall, pressed a panel, and sealed the door with a magnetic hiss, then turned to face me. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked tired. Not weak, just burdened, like holding everything together had finally taken its toll. He unbuttoned the cuff of his sleeve, rolling it back to reveal a long, thin scar down his forearm. Silas sends bonehounds when he wants to make a statement. He knew exactly where to hit. I stepped closer. So what now? We just wait. No, his eyes lifted. We survive. The room went quiet. Just our breathing, the crackle of firelight, the soft pulse of the bond neither of us wanted to name. You keep acting like I'm breakable, I said, but I'm not. I know. Then stop treating me like a job. His jaw tightened. You're not a job. Then what am I? He didn't answer. I stepped closer. You can tear through assassins. You can stop a council room with one growl. But when it's just me standing in front of you, you look away. I have to, he said, voice rough, because if I don't, I won't stop. My heart skipped. His hand brushed the side of my face before he even realized it, fingers light, not commanding. His eyes searched mine like he hated what he was about to say. I can't have you, Luna, he whispered. Not if I want you to live. The mark between us pulsed again, warmer, stronger. His breath hitched. And then the moon rose. It hit like a thunderclap inside my chest. The mark ignited, wild and uncontrollable. My spine arched as heat tore through me from the inside out. I fell to my knees, gasping. Luna, Dante's voice cut through the haze, sharp with panic. I gritted my teeth. The moon. My vision blurred. Light exploded behind my eyes. Bones shifted, muscles stretched. The mark flared like fire pressed against skin. And then the change. My wolf broke free. She wasn't the small creature I remembered as a child. She was taller, sleeker. Her fur shimmered in black and gold, eyes glowing like twin suns beneath the storm. I stood, forepaws steady on the floor, growling low. Dante didn't move. He simply looked at me, his expression unreadable. Then he shifted. The silver-gray wolf that emerged was larger, broader, streaked with scars I hadn't seen before. His eyes were the same, sharp and moonlit, alpha eyes. We circled each other slowly. And then we heard it, scratching beyond the walls. A low snarl, a hiss. Bonehounds. The scent of rot seeped through the stone. The door groaned once. Then it exploded. They poured in, 5 of them, eyes pale white, skins stretched over twisted bone. Not real wolves, not anymore. I didn't wait. I lunged first. My jaws clamped down on the neck of the lead hound, twisting hard. It yelped and crumpled. Dante tore into the second, sending it flying into the wall. Claw marks raked across the stone. The third one went for me, jaws open, its tongue gray and split. I rolled beneath it, snapped upward, and tasted blood and ash. Dante blocked the fourth with his full weight. They crashed into the fireplace. Sparks flew. The room burned. I took the fifth down in a blur. My wolf moved faster than I'd ever known I could. When the last body fell, the room went silent again. I shifted back first, breathing hard, skin scraped and bloodied but alive. Dante followed, collapsing to his knees, chest heaving. We sat in the quiet, surrounded by ashes and blood, neither of us speaking. Until I moved. I reached for him, not thinking, just feeling, and placed my hand against his chest, right over his heart. His hand rose to cover mine. "I want this," I whispered. He closed his eyes, just for a moment, like the words hurt more than they healed. Then he leaned forward. No command, no force. Just gravity. We met somewhere between pain and silence. His lips brushed mine, not wild like before, but slow, measured, real. The kiss deepened, pulled by something ancient, something magnetic. It wasn't about fire this time, it was about truth. His hands gripped my waist, mine tangled in his shirt. The mark between us burned hot and steady, like two halves of the same flame had finally recognized each other. We didn't say another word. Because this was not a conversation. This was the beginning of a bond that neither of us could undo. The night was sleepless with questions in my mind and few uncertain answers rotating. I woke to warmth. Not sunlight, not comfort, just the lingering heat of skin against mine. The fireplace was low now, orange embers crackling in the quiet. The sheets were tangled around my legs, and I lay still, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the ceiling beams above. He was gone. I reached for the empty space beside me before I even realized I'd moved. It was still warm. The room was silent, save for the tick of cooling steel and the faint echo of my own heartbeat in my ears. My mark pulsed gently against my wrist, not burning anymore, just awake. I sat up slowly, wrapping the edge of the blanket around me as I stood. There was no note, no trace of him except the torn edge of his shirt tossed over the back of the chair, the one I'd gripped when he'd... Stop. I pushed the thought away and pulled my clothes on, trying not to think about how my chest still ached in the shape of his touch. I needed air. The corridor outside the safe house was quiet. I took the narrow stairs up to the secondary level, footsteps light on the concrete. Somewhere above, the city blinked beyond the blackout glass. I reached the lounge. And stopped. Marco was there, leaning against the bar, arms crossed, nursing a bottle of something expensive-looking and probably illegal. "Morning," he said without turning. "You always drink alone." He chuckled, "Only when I'm about to ruin someone's day." I stepped into the room, folding my arms. "Yours or mine?" He turned then, but his smile was tight, not the usual smirk, something more tired, resigned. "I figured if anyone had a right to know the truth, it's you." He studied me for a beat. "You remember when I said I knew your mother?" I nodded slowly. "I didn't just know her." He set the bottle down. "She saved my life, and then she changed it." He walked toward the glass, voice lower now. "I was born to a rogue seeress. My mother saw visions so painful she would black out for hours. My father, well, turns out he wasn't the rogue she thought he was." My heart started to beat faster. "Mark." He looked over his shoulder. "My father was Alpha Thorn, your father." I stopped breathing. "That makes us half-siblings." His voice was calm. "You're the heir of Blackthorn, the true Luna line. The moonbound Mark chose you. And you." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I was born for war, marked for it. That was the deal. Our father raised you for peace. He left the rest of the darkness for me." I stared at him. "All this time, you knew." "I didn't know about the prophecy until later, but I knew about you." He met my gaze. "I was at Blackthorn the night it burned." A blade slid clean through my chest, cold and final. "You were there." "I helped Silas get in." "I didn't think." My fist connected with his jaw hard enough to snap his head to the side. He didn't hit back. He wiped blood from his lip and kept his eyes on me. I deserved that. You helped kill our pack. I helped awaken your mark. His voice shook now, cracking beneath the weight of his own confession. It was the only way to start the chain. You had to lose everything to trigger the prophecy, and back then I thought it was worth the price. And now, I whispered. Now, he exhaled, I see what I cost you, what I cost both of us. I turned away, jaw tight, tears burning behind my eyes but refusing to fall. Why are you telling me this now? Because it's not over, he said. Silas has something worse planned. I looked back at him slowly. He swallowed hard. He has our mother's bones. My stomach dropped. What? He kept them, hid them, and he's working with witches who specialize in blood resurrection. He wants to use her bones as a vessel, a summoning anchor. To do what? My voice was barely a breath. To bind your magic, Marco said. To break the mark, to transfer it. I staggered back a step, hand gripping the edge of the wall. You're lying. I wish I was. He stepped forward gently. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm still breathing. I want to stop him. I shook my head, trying to breathe, trying to find logic where there was none. My mother, my pack, all of it ripped apart and twisted into some monster's ritual. I looked at Marco and saw 1,000 fractures in my heart. You don't get to be my brother, I said. Not after this. He didn't try to change my mind. The message came in through a private courier chip, slid beneath my door an hour later. A tiny piece of paper folded 4 times inside the plastic case. No scent, no crest. Just 5 words written in shaky ink. Blackthorn wolf alive, South Tunnel. My breath caught. Alive. My fingers trembled as I folded the note back, brain spinning through every name, Nessa, Thorn, anyone who could have survived. No one had said a single soul made it out. Not one. I had to know. I didn't tell anyone, not Dante, not Marco. I just grabbed my coat, tucked a blade into my boot, and slipped out through the lower corridor where the guards rotated every half hour. No one stopped me. The South Tunnel was colder than the rest of the city, buried beneath layers of old sewer lines and forgotten train tracks. I followed the directions exactly. 1 left at the rusted gate, 2 rights past the water lines, a narrow crawl space through the broken bricks. My mark burned hotter with every step. When I emerged, the tunnel opened into a wide, circular chamber with stone walls and strange symbols carved deep into the floor. No one was there. Just the echo of dripping water and my own heartbeat. I turned. Too late. A burst of powder hit my face, sweet, smoky, blinding. I gasped. Moondust. My limbs went weak instantly. My vision blurred at the edges. I stumbled backward, throat tightening. Figures moved from the shadows. Tall, hooded, eyes pale white. Bonehounds. And behind them, a man. Silas Crane. His voice echoed softly in the chamber. Took you long enough. I reached for my blade, but my hand wouldn't move. The powder numbed everything. My muscles locked, my wolf silent. My knees gave out. I collapsed against the stone floor as heavy footsteps approached. Silas crouched beside me, brushing hair from my cheek like a lover. You're more beautiful than I remember, he said, and brighter and your body. Stop, I warned. His hand hovered over my wrist. The mark flared red. I've waited for this, he whispered. I tried to speak, my lips barely parted. You won't win. He smiled, but I already have. The bonehounds grabbed my arms. Cold silver cuffs snapped over my wrists. The metal bit deep, burning into my skin. I screamed, but the sound barely escaped my throat. They dragged me across the stone. The chamber spun around me. My last thought before everything faded. Dante. My body refused to move. The silver cuffs around my wrists burned hotter than fire, every nerve screaming. I gasped with each dragged breath, my vision swimming in and out of darkness. Moondust coated the air, seeping into my lungs, dulling my senses until even my wolf's voice slipped into silence. I was nothing but limbs and pain, hauled across stone by the bonehounds like a trophy. We reached the ritual chamber. It was a long, oval-shaped hall carved from ancient gray rock, lit only by crimson glass lanterns that made the shadows flicker like living things. Symbols burned faintly across the floor, runic spirals and jagged sigils carved into the stone. I didn't recognize the language, but my mark pulsed at every curve like it did. The bonehounds forced me to kneel before a raised platform. And then I saw him. Sela's crane stood atop a dais in bone-white armor. The chest plate was ribbed with silver veins. A crown of antlers curved from his head like something out of a nightmare, and a curved dagger glinted at his side. His eyes, those soulless gray irises, landed on me, and a smile stretched across his mouth. "Good," he said softly. "You're awake." He descended the stairs slowly, like a king walking to claim his prize. Two witches, their faces veiled in silver mesh, followed behind him, murmuring words in a low language that made the hairs on my arms rise. "You should feel honored, Luna." He crouched before me, eye level now. "Few have ever been chosen by the moonbound mark. Fewer still survive long enough to see it awakened." I gritted my teeth. "You'll never take it." His gaze slid to my wrist. The mark throbbed red beneath the silver cuff, glowing despite the poison. He murmured, "but I already have." He stood and raised his hand. The bonehounds yanked me forward, chaining my cuffs to the central stone altar. The moment my knees hit the cold slab, a wave of nausea surged through me, magic coiled deep in the stone, wrong and old and bitter. One of the witches approached with a bowl of black liquid. Silas dipped his fingers in and began painting runes down my forearms. I tried not to flinch. I failed. He drew a final mark over my heart. "To remove a blessing," he whispered, "you must first kill the bond." He raised his dagger. Meanwhile, the safe house was in ruins. The couch was overturned. A wall had been torn open. Blood painted the stone in streaks, and the scent, hers, lingered in the air, sharp with pain. Dante stood in the middle of it all, still as death. His eyes glowed silver. "She was taken," Marco said behind him, breathing hard. I tried to follow. "You let her walk into a trap." Dante's voice was quiet, too quiet. Marco raised his hands. "We don't know that, maybe." Dante moved. 1 second he stood in place. The next, Marco was slammed against the wall, Dante's hand gripping his throat. "You touched her, you trained her, and you let her go without guards." "I didn't," Marco choked. "I didn't know." Dante's fangs pushed through. His wolf surged beneath his skin, trying to break free. "I should kill you." "Then do it," Marco rasped. "But she's out there, and I'm the only one who can help find her." Dante froze. For a second, just one, the fury broke. Behind it, raw, bleeding panic. "She's marked," Marco gasped. "If they use her blood at the wrong time, she'll burn from the inside out." Dante's grip loosened. He stepped back, chest heaving. "I'll track her," he said, "alone." Marco straightened, rubbing his neck. "I'm coming with you." Dante's eyes flared. "You're not." Marco met his gaze. "Then kill me now, because I'm not letting her die." Silence. Then, without another word, Dante turned and stormed from the ruins. Marco followed. The hollow keep. The dagger hovered above my chest. My mark flared, violent red alive. Silas smiled. "Now," he said to the witches. They began chanting. The lights dimmed. Magic flooded the room, choking and hot, rushing across the altar like smoke. The mark on my wrist burned brighter. My head fell back as my body spasmed, pain crashing through every muscle like fire and ice at once. My wolf screamed from somewhere deep inside me. "Fight, fight, don't let him take it." But I was chained, weak, poisoned. And then, a door exploded off its hinges. Stone shattered. Wolves screamed. Dante Voss stormed into the chamber like a living storm. His wolf wasn't just close to the surface, it was fused into him. His eyes were silver flames. His claws had torn through his jacket, his body humming with violence. A growl thundered from his chest, a sound that silenced every creature in the room. Silas straightened. "You're too late," he said. Dante didn't speak. He just moved. One heartbeat. Then blood. The bonehounds never stood a chance. Claws tore, fangs snapped. Dante moved with the grace of a killer and the fury of a god. One wolf lunged, he broke its spine. Another tried to flank him, he ripped out its throat. The witches shrieked. One raised her staff. He sliced through her with one spinning kick, breaking bone and spellwork. Silas met him halfway. The two collided in a flash of claws and fire. Dante shoved him back, slashing, but Silas blocked, parried, and slammed a fist into Dante's ribs. They clashed again, faster now. Blood sprayed across the altar as steel met claw, as old magic warped the air. I strained against my cuffs. My breath came in gasps. My wolf surged in panic. "Dante." Silas landed a blow. Dante staggered. He dropped to one knee. Silas raised his dagger. I didn't think. I moved. A scream ripped from my throat as I forced my wrists against the silver, skin peeling, blood pouring. I twisted, bones popped, until the cuff on the left hand snapped. The other followed. I grabbed the fallen blade beside the altar, the one Silas had left dripping with poison and pride. And I ran. Silas turned too late. I drove the blade straight into his heart. He gasped, and I twisted. The room exploded with light. My mark pulsed once, blinding white, and then the air fell still. Silas collapsed, the dagger buried in his chest. And I collapsed too. Dante caught me before I hit the stone. He held me tight against his chest, his breath ragged, his arms shaking. "You came," I whispered. "Always." My eyes fluttered. Around us, the room flickered, lanterns dying, runes fatting. But inside me, my wolf stirred. And for the first time since that night by the cliffs, I felt her full strength. Silas Crane gasped, wet and thirsty. His fingers twitched where they clutched my wrist, his nails digging into the place where my mark still burned. Red liquid foamed at his lips, trailing down his chin in rivulets. The bone armor cracked across his chest as the blade I'd driven through him pulsed with one last flicker of light. He tried to speak, but all that came out was a gurgling rasp and a stream of blood. His knees buckled, and just like that, the monster who orchestrated the fall of my pack, who tore through the piece of the world I once knew, fell forward. Destroyed. I stared down at his crumpled form. He didn't die with rage in his eyes, not victory, not fear. He died still reaching for my wrist. Still reaching for the mark he thought belonged to him. My mark. I sank to my knees beside his corpse. The dagger slipped from my fingers, clattering on stone. My chest heaved, but I couldn't cry. Not yet. Footsteps echoed down the hall, fast, uneven, and familiar. Marco burst through what was left of the chamber doors, his shirt soaked in stains, his face pale and wide-eyed. He stopped cold when he saw Silas's body. And me, crouched over it. Dante was behind me, still half kneeling, blood streaming from a gash on his ribs. Marco's voice cracked. "You." I looked up. "It's over," I whispered. Marco stepped forward slowly. His boots crunched over shattered bone and crumbled stone. His eyes flicked to Dante, then back to the corpse of Silas Crane. "He's really destroyed," he said. I nodded. He didn't smile. Instead, he exhaled like the breath had been lodged inside his chest for a year. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, Marco looked like someone's son, not a fighter, not a syndicate soldier. Just tired. "I should have done it," he murmured. I didn't answer, because I didn't know what to say. He crouched down beside me, his hand hovering for a second over Silas's bloodied shoulder. "I hated him," he said, "and I followed him." "You didn't kill him," I said, my voice soft. But you helped me get here. I wasn't the hero. His eyes lifted to mine. But I'll live with it, every part of it. He stood again. And so did I. Dante's breathing had gone shallow. I turned quickly, just in time to catch him as he collapsed backward. No, no, no. I dropped beside him, cradling his head in my lap. Stay with me. His skin burned under my hands. His shirt clung to his chest, blood soaking through in thick blotches. One eye fluttered open, glassy but locked onto mine. You're okay, he rasped. I'm here, I cupped his cheek. But you're not okay. Just tired, he muttered, his mouth curling faintly. Didn't sleep well last night, too busy storming keeps. Stop joking, I said, my voice trembling. But I was already pulling off my jacket, pressing it hard over the worst of the wounds. Blood soaked through it instantly. Panic clawed at my ribs. Dante coughed. If I don't make it. Don't, I held his face between my hands. Don't say that, you're not going anywhere. His breath hitched. Then my mark flared. I gasped. It wasn't like before. It didn't burn or pulse like fire. It glowed like moonlight, like something calling. I looked down, and Dante's wrist was glowing too. Our marks pulsed together. In sync. Faster, louder. He winced. It's calling the bond. What bond? His eyes closed, and his voice dropped to a whisper. The moonbound. It only forms when two souls choose. The chamber pulsed with heat. It felt like the world had narrowed, to just him and me, to the thread between our hearts, pulling tighter, glowing brighter. I leaned close. I choose you. Then I kissed him. Not rough, not desperate, but slow, like a promise. The air shifted. His hand rose weakly to cradle the back of my neck, his fingers tangling into my hair as our lips stayed locked, our breath shared. The mark on my wrist pressed to his. And something clicked. A light flared white across our skin. And for the first time, I felt him. Not just beside me, but inside me. A tether, a bond. Not a mate mark, not yet. But something deeper. I'll carry your pain, I whispered against his lips. And I'll guard your soul, he answered, even though he was fatting fast. I touched his forehead to mine. Then let's finish it. The old map Dante carried burned with heat under my fingers. Marco helped me half carry, half drag Dante down the corridor, through the shattered ruins of the hollow keep, until we reached the hidden passage behind the altar. A sealed door of iron. It opened with the press of our shared marks. And down we went. Through stone and echo, through roots and ash, until we reached the lowest chamber, smooth walls carved with wolf runes, a ceiling of crystal that pulsed dimly with trapped moonlight. This was the ritual room. The place where the moonbound oath had once been sworn by the founding alphas, centuries before. Dante's breath slowed as I lowered him to the center platform. The carvings beneath us came to life, swirling, glowing gold and blue. I knelt beside him and took his hand. I don't know the words, I whispered. Dante's voice rasped. You don't need them, just feel. So I did. I closed my eyes, placed my other palm over his heart, and let my soul speak. I give you my strength, I whispered. My breath, my light, my blood. A glow built around us. Dante's hand trembled as he touched my chest, just above my heart. I give you my fire, my fury, my truth. The marks on our wrists began to spin, spirals of silver and gold twisting like mirrored stars. I bind myself to your fate, I said. And I to yours. A wind rose. Our wolves surged, howling through the space between us. My back arched as heat tore through my spine. My wolf merged with me fully, completely, without resistance. I opened my eyes and saw white. But not just light. A vision. A woman's face. My mother. She stood at the edge of the light, her hair long and moonlit, her eyes sharp as glass. Her mouth didn't move, but I heard her. Luna, the council knows you've awakened. Don't trust them. My breath caught. They want to claim the moonbound for themselves, not for peace, for power. And then, the light vanished. I collapsed forward, chest heaving, Dante's hand tight in mine. We were both awake. Both changed. I looked at him, and he looked at me like I was everything. We didn't speak, but our bond did. Every heartbeat said the same thing now. Mine. Dante's hand was still in mine as we stepped back into the city. Our marks had faded to soft silver, but I could still feel his presence in every breath I took. A whisper beneath my skin, a thread pulling tight when I wandered even a step too far. We were moonbound now. Not just mated in instinct, but chosen, shared, soul deep. And yet, something in my chest refused to settle. Like the ritual had opened something inside me I wasn't ready to face. Dante was quiet too. We walked side by side, down the long hallway leading from the hidden caves beneath Hollow Keep to the Syndicate Tower where it all began. Where Marco once stood, grinning with secrets. Where I first woke in a glass prison and met the man who would change everything. And now, it felt like we were walking into another kind of war. The guards bowed low when we entered. But a different figure waited for us in the marble lobby. An old woman. Her hair was silver white, long enough to sweep the polished floor. She wore a black veil over her eyes, but her nose, sharp, aristocratic, twitched when she caught my scent. She smiled faintly. "I wondered how long it would take you to return," she said, voice like wind brushing over stone. "Luna of Blackthorn, daughter of Mara." Dante stiffened beside me. I stepped forward. "You knew my mother." She inclined her head. "Knew her, child, I served her." Something twisted in my gut. "Who are you?" She removed the veil from her eyes. They were pure white, sightless, but I felt her looking at me all the same. "My name is Myra. I was the last voice your mother trusted, and I am here to tell you the truth, before they do." I glanced at Dante, who gave a slow, wary nod. We followed Myra into the long corridor beyond the lobby. The guards didn't follow. No one did. Only the sound of her cane tapping the tiles and the whisper of my heartbeat growing louder with every step. We entered a quiet room lit only by low firelight. Books lined the shelves. Dust hovered in the golden light beams. This room felt like memory, like it belonged to someone who hadn't walked it in years. "Sit," Myra said softly. I did. She remained standing. "Your mother," she began, "was not just a healer, not just a Luna. She was the last moon priestess." The words slammed into my chest. Dante exhaled sharply beside me. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Myra tilted her head toward him. "She hid it well, even from you." My throat was dry. "What does that mean?" "She was the guardian of the moonbound rites," Myra said. "The keeper of the prophecy, she created it." I blinked. "Created it?" Myra nodded. "Yes, the prophecy you believe in, the one that marked you. That called you to Dante Voss. It was designed, not discovered. A trap. A ritual seed waiting to bloom in the blood of her child." "Why would she?" "To destroy him," Myra said calmly, gesturing toward Dante. "To end the Voss line." My breath caught. Dante stood still as stone. She believed his father would ruin the balance, that Dante would inherit not power, but plague, war, darkness. She believed the only way to stop the prophecy was to rewrite it. I stood up. "No," I whispered. "No, you're wrong." "Am I?" Tears stung my eyes. "Everything I've done," I said, voice cracking. "Everything we've been through, it wasn't a lie. It couldn't be." Myra stepped forward. "Child," she said softly, "you were not raised to be a healer. You were raised to be the executioner." The room spun. Dante reached for me, but I pulled away. I need air," I whispered. I barely felt the wind as I stepped out onto the balcony. Below us, the city pulsed like a living thing. Lights, smoke, howls rising in the distance. Was it all fate, or was it manipulation? My hands shook. The mark on my wrist shimmered. Was it love or control? I didn't realize I was crying until Dante's arms came around me from behind. He didn't speak, didn't ask, just held me. And I didn't pull away this time. I don't know what's real anymore, I whispered. I do, he said softly. I turned to face him. Do you still trust me? He lifted my hand, kissed the mark. With my life. And for a moment, I let myself believe him. That night, we were summoned to the top floor. Not by a guard, but by a dream. Or maybe it was a compulsion. I woke to find Dante already standing, eyes glowing silver. We moved like pulled strings, drawn up the golden staircase that spiraled to the observatory. When the doors opened, they were waiting. 6 figures in cloaks of ash white and bone. 6 pairs of eyes, all shining with silver power. The Council of the Marked. The ones behind the prophecy, behind the order that once ruled the old world. The true architects of what was happening now. You have broken the balance, one of them said, a man, tall and rigid. You have completed a bond that should never have been formed. I stepped forward. We didn't break anything, you did. Another figure, a woman with lips stained black, spoke next. The moonbound was meant to awaken peace, not forge armies. Then maybe you should have chosen someone else, I said. You are marked for power, the first voice said, and now you will surrender it. Dante growled low beside me. You want me to undo the bond? I asked. They nodded in eerie unison. I laughed. You think I'd give you that, after everything? Then you are a traitor, the black-lipped woman hissed, and your death will be written in prophecy. I looked at Dante, then at them, and I smiled. Then let them come, I said, and let them bleed. War doesn't always start with guns. Sometimes it starts with silence. And that silence fell over the city like a storm. My words had barely left my mouth when the lights cut out. The chandelier above us shattered, plunging the room into half-dark. The glow of the city beyond the syndicate glass windows flickered, then blinked off entirely. Backup power, Dante snapped, stepping in front of me. His wolf eyes glinted silver. Now. Footsteps thundered down the corridor. I turned. Marco burst in, panting, blood on his sleeve. They hit South Point, he said breathlessly. The entire den was leveled, gone, no survivors. What? My voice cracked. Before anyone could respond, a screen flared to life behind us. A shaken beta from one of the outer packs appeared in grainy footage, eyes wide, face streaked with blood. We're under attack. Repeat, this is the Redbridge pack, we're... The transmission cut with a snarl. Another screen lit up, then another. One by one, emergency reports bled across the command wall like wounds. Territories falling, den codes breaking, alpha signatures going dark. They're not warning us, Dante muttered, eyes narrowing. They're showing off. I asked, but I already knew. The council had struck, and they weren't playing chess anymore. By the time we reached the rooftop command deck, smoke was already curling against the horizon. Not from one place, but from 3 different corners of the city. The smell of burned fur hit my nose before the wind did. They moved fast, Myra whispered. Too fast. I scanned the skis. No stars, just red flickers where homes used to be. Dante's voice cut sharp. Deploy the shadow guard, silent strike, no survivors. He turned to me. Luna, don't leave this floor. I'm not hiding. You're leading, he corrected, and you don't lead by dying. Before I could argue, a siren screamed, long and low. Then came the howls. Dozens, hundreds, unmistakably council-trained. They were already in the city. First strike, the rooftop battle. The elevator jammed. We took the stairs. As we reached the balcony, I saw them, wolves with silver-plated claws scaling the syndicate walls like spiders. Not rogue, not feral, trained assassins. Their movements were too precise. Bone-rot armor, council-made. Marco, I barked, tell me the sentries are awake. I already did. The wall beside me exploded inward. I stumbled back, shielding my face. Through the dust came two dark forms, jaws foaming with moon dust, claws ready. Before I could shift, Dante was already airborne, ripping one from the sky mid-leap, smashing him into the marble, teeth at his throat. The second came for me. I didn't wait. I ducked, rolled, grabbed a silver-tipped spear from the wall and jammed it upward. The wolf yelped and staggered, blood spraying across my boots. More howls rose around us. The council had opened all their cages. "Fall back to the south wing," Marco shouted. "We hold there or we're cut in half." Dante shifted mid-run, his silver wolf charging into a wave of black-furred attackers. He moved like a blade through wind. I followed, shifting into my black-gold form, and collided with a wolf twice my size. We crashed through glass into the east observatory. Furniture shattered beneath us. Snarls, blood, screams. It wasn't a battle, it was a warning. Second strike, the city burns. They came in pulses. Wolves in stolen syndicate gear took the East Bridge. Council saboteurs set off charges in the market district. Marco barely escaped a firebomb under the armory gates. Rogues loyal to Voss fought beside us, but we were outnumbered 3-1. For everyone we took down, 2 replaced them. From the rooftop I saw it, the Red Bridge banner going up in flames. Then the Southpint crest crumbling into smoke. They were sending messages. City packs who hadn't joined the council fast enough were being erased. "They're not even occupying," Marco said, staggering up beside me. His face was ash-smeared, hair singed. "They're razing everything, removing the pieces." "Where's the council alpha now?" I asked. "Still in the tower," he said. "They haven't shown themselves yet." "They will," Dante said behind me. He was back in human form, streaked with blood, knuckles bruised. "Because they think we're finished." He looked at me, jaw clenched. "And you're going to show them we're not." Midnight, Luna takes command. I pulled on the long black coat Myra handed me. My old blackthorn crest was still stitched inside the lining, gold thread on charcoal. I met the eyes of every rogue, every Voss loyalist, every frightened young wolf whose entire pack was now ash. "They thought wiping us out in one night would end us," I said quietly. "They forgot what wolves do when cornered." Dante stood beside me now, shoulder to shoulder. "We don't beg," I said. The wind howled past us, hot with embers. "We hunt." And they howled back. Final bridge scene before morning. The last enemy wave hit just before dawn, on the old sky bridge between Southpoint and the Syndicate wall. My wolf was aching, my limbs sore, but I ran anyway, leading the charge with Marco flanking and Dante behind me. Council wolves leapt from scaffolding. We met midair. Fangs, claws, blood. Dante shifted mid-strike, snapping a war captain's neck with one clean movement. I shifted too, my golden fur glowing under the city lights. I drove my claws through the nearest threat, then lifted my head and let my howl rip across the skyline. Victory wasn't ours yet. But they were bleeding. And I was no one's puppet anymore. By morning, 3 city packs had already collapsed. Their banners burned, their leaders executed, wolves loyal to the old ways turned to ash. The council was already moving. I didn't have time to cry, or doubt, or remember Myra's words. Because I had to become something else. I stood in the underground bunker, surrounded by rogues who once followed Sela's, blackthorn wolves who had survived the massacre. And I took command. Dante moved like lightning through the chaos. The Syndicate's secret army, wolves trained for both battle and shadows, rose from hidden cells across the city. One by one, they returned. And they bowed to him. Together, we planned our first strike. Beneath the tunnels, above the rooftops, I led them in my black gold wolf form for the first time. We ran like shadows, struck like flame. And the council's spies began to fall. One by one. But war has its cost. Marco volunteered for the temple mission. He didn't even ask. I know the codes, he said. I know how they think. Dante argued. I almost screamed. But Marco only smiled. I was the blade once, remember, he said. Let me do something good before the end. We watched him disappear into the storm. And waited. The temple exploded just before sunrise. Its moon crystals shattered. The sacred pool boiled. We won. Until we saw him, limping out of the smoke, blood pouring from his side. I ran to him. Fell to my knees. No, Marco, stay with me. His eyes met mine, pale, almost gold now. It hurts, he whispered. I've got you, I said. Just hold on. Dante pressed his jacket to the wound. We need a healer, now. Marco touched my face. I was supposed to be the blade, he whispered. But you, Luna. I leaned closer. You were the storm. He smiled, and the light left his eyes. I didn't cry. I screamed. The moon was blood red that night. And when I howled, Dante howled with me. For the brother I had. For the one I forgave. And for the war still ahead. Because the council had only just begun. And so had I. I was born to end this, but I chose to begin something else. The air outside the moon temple was still crackling when I stepped away from Marco's body. Dante hadn't spoken a word since we'd buried him in the shadow of the iron trees, wolves from Blackthorn, Voss, and even rogue lands standing in a silent crescent, heads bowed. The scent of old blood still clung to my skin, but I didn't wipe it away. Not yet. Are you ready? Dante's voice came low near my shoulder, not commanding, not asking for permission, just offering something I didn't yet know how to hold. I nodded. No armor would help us now. No prayers. No more lies. Just us, the bond between our chests still pulsing like a living heartbeat, and the rage of everything we'd lost driving us forward. The old map crinkled in my pocket. Myra's final whisper still echoed in my ear. The fortress lies where the moon never rises, beneath the veil of stone. You'll know it when your blood recoils. And it did. Because the moment we stepped past the iron gate disguised as a maintenance shaft under the mountain's roots, the very marrow in my bones tightened. The scent of silver was strong here, laced into the walls, woven into the stone. A place built not to hold wolves, but to trap them. Dante was the one who noticed the first glyph, etched into the ceiling, half obscured by dust and shadow. Trap rune, he muttered, brushing a hand just past it without touching. Council magic. I crouched, fingers grazing the floor. There's blood here, fresh. We weren't the first to come, but we might be the last to leave. We moved silently, step after step, hallway after hallway. The fortress was carved from volcanic stone, warm beneath our boots and too quiet. Until the light snapped on. A dozen flood lamps from above. Steel shutters slammed down behind us, sealing us in a chamber shaped like a dome. They knew, I whispered, my claws already slipping free. They knew we were coming. Dante's wolf surged beneath his skin. His eyes shimmered, moonlit and wild. Then let them regret it. Doors slid open across the dome's edge. 12 figures stepped out, each in robes marked with sigils I didn't recognize, but felt, deep in my spine. The high priest was in the center, white robes, silver threads. His eyes were entirely black. Welcome, Moonborn. His voice wasn't his. It echoed too many times, like a choir of dead things sang through him. You brought death to our order, and yet you come to kneel. I came, I said, my voice sharp, to end what your order became. He laughed. And then they attacked. I moved with instinct, with fury. Dante's body was at my back, his claws tearing into the high priest's guard with practiced elegance. We didn't speak, but every step, every strike was timed like a dance we'd always known. A knife cut across my ribs. I twisted, slammed my elbow into the attacker's jaw, and swept his legs. 2 wolves came for Dante, fangs dripping with dark venom. He shifted midair, silver gray and massive, and crushed them both beneath his paws. Blood slicked the floors. The glyphs above began to glow, feeding the council's magic. The high priest raised a curved blade. "Your mark belongs to us," he roared. "Your life is not yours to wield." And then Dante staggered. He gasped mid-lunge, collapsing onto one knee. My heart stopped. A black spike jutted from his back. Not steel, not bone, something darker, coated in runes that pulsed with every beat of his heart. "Dante," I dropped beside him, hands shaking. He looked up at me, pale now. "It's a death curse, old blood magic, Luna, run." "No." I stood, slow, my hands curling into fists. The mark on my chest burned so hot I thought it might melt through me. I turned to the high priest. "You won't take him," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I'll give you me." He smiled. "Wise choice, child of prophecy." I dropped my weapons. Dante was whispering something, but I couldn't hear any more. They dragged me across the dome floor and laid me on the stone altar at the center. My wrists were chained in silver. My throat was bared to the ceiling. Above me, the moon was carved into the rock, upside down. The mark on my chest flared, and the stone below me cracked. The high priest lifted his ceremonial dagger. "With her death, the bond breaks, and the world is ours." He plunged the blade downward, and the mark exploded. I didn't scream. I became the scream. White light erupted from my chest, not heat but force. It slammed through the chamber, breaking chains, flinging bodies, melting stone. The glyphs overhead burst like shattered glass. The altar split in half beneath me. The high priest shrieked as his blade caught fire in his hands. His robes turned to ash midward. Every other figure still standing collapsed, lifeless. And then, nothing. Only stillness and dark. Some stories end in fire. Ours was born from it. The first thing I felt was weight, warm, solid, trembling slightly beneath my cheek. A heartbeat. Not mine. Dante. My eyes cracked open, vision swimming in soft silver light. The air was damp, smelling of ash and scorched stone, and something sweeter, like cedarwood, leather, and rain. His arms were wrapped around me, anchoring me. His voice murmured above my head, hoarse and low, like it had been dragged through fire. "You stubborn wolf," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair off my face. "You came back." I couldn't speak yet, my throat ached. My bones felt different, lighter, hollowed and refilled. "You died," I finally rasped. He smiled, the kind that only ghosts or men in love wear. "Almost, but you wouldn't let me." His fingers pressed lightly against my chest, where the mark was. The heat from it still pulsed, slower now, balanced. "You gave me your life force." "Half of it," I whispered. "You've always been the other half." We lay there for what felt like forever, though it couldn't have been more than minutes, in the rubble of what had once been the council's inner sanctum. The black altar was now cracked in two. Pillars had fallen. The domed ceiling let in the light of dawn. My fingers trailed the floor beside us, warm, but no longer poolsing with dark magic. "They're gone," I said softly. Dante nodded. "All of them, you burned them into nothing." I sat up slowly, dizziness rushing through me like a second tide. "Not all." He raised a brow. "Their ideas, their systems, the fear they sowed in every pack that bowed to them, that's still alive, Dante, and it won't die unless something better grows in its place." He watched me, not like a king, not even like a mate, just a man, silent, listening. "I don't want to rule," I continued, voice shaking, "but I'll fight for what comes next if you're with me." "I've always been with you," he said, and this time no mask hid the truth in his voice. "Even before I knew it." We climbed out of the ruins together. The entrance had collapsed in part, but cracks in the ceiling led us into a tunnel that opened beneath the cliffside, beneath hollow Keep itself. Outside, the world was already changing. Smoke curled from distant cities, yes, but the red banners of the council were gone, replaced by makeshift flags, wolf symbols stitched by hand. Not empires, families. At the ridge, a gathering waited. Wolves from every corner, syndicate rogues, Blackthorn loyalists, even the Sea Pack of North Point. None of them bowed. They just looked at me and waited. I stepped forward. The last time I gave a speech, it was at a gala, wearing a diamond wolf necklace and pretending I belonged to a man I barely knew. This time I wore no crown, no silk, just scars, blood, and the mark that had burned through fate itself. "We've all lost something," I said, my voice steady despite the wind. "Our families, our lands, our stories." I met each face, each pair of wild, waiting eyes. But I don't stand here to rebuild what was. I stand to build something new, not ruled by old bloodlines or death magic, but by choice. A few heads turned toward Dante. He didn't flinch. "Not every pack will want peace. Some will challenge what we create. That's fine." I lifted my chin. "Let them. We'll show them what it means to rise." Silence, then. A howl. Soft at first, then another. And another. Until the cliffs shook with the sound of 100 wolves raising their voices in one sound: freedom. Later, when the sun reached its peak, Dante pulled me away to a small hill behind the gathering. "I have something for you," he murmured, retrieving a velvet pouch from his coat. I raised a brow. "If it's another blade." "It's not." Inside the pouch was a simple ring. No diamond, no gold. Forged from dark, polished metal, blackthorn steel, engraved with the twin mark. "I thought," he said, voice a little rough, "you might want to wear something that came from your own bloodline, not mine." My throat tightened. "Are you asking me to?" He didn't kneel. He just held out the ring. "I'm not asking you to be my queen, Luna." He looked at me like I was the only thing that had ever made sense in a world of violence. "I'm asking you to be my home." I slid the ring onto my finger. Then I leaned forward, resting my forehead against his. "I was born with a mark meant to bind me to fate," I whispered, "but I chose you." He smiled, "And I'll keep choosing you every damn time." That night, under the full moon, we stood on the ruins of the fortress that once held me in chains. I raised my head to the stars. And I howled. Not for war, not for power, but for something new. Something ours. And the wolves howled with me. I was born with a mark meant to bind me to fate. But I chose him. I chose us.